Okay, back to okay. So what are we learning here? When Jews do a commandment, this brings a blessing into the world. That's why we make a blessing before every commandment. Baruch atah Hashem. When we say, "Blessed are you, God," we bring blessing into the world. That's what we believe. By means of doing the commandments, it changes the world, makes the world more clearer, removes some of the little bit of the confusion in the world, etc. How this exactly works and why it's taking so much time, I don't know. But I do know, at least I believe, that that's what the commandments are. And that when the Holy Temple was, it brought really blessing to the whole world. And we want the Holy Temple. But we want it again. Meanwhile, when we do the commandment of Lulov and Etrog and the commandment of sitting in the Succa, it brings blessing to the world. Says the Rebbe, this really hints at coming of Mashiach, perhaps more than any other commandment. This hints at the coming of the Mashiach, and it contributes to bringing the Mashiach, because the Mashiach will accomplish these two things that Succa accomplishes and Lulav Etrog accomplishes, but more so the Lulav and the Etrog. And that's why it says that because of these two things, the Lulav and Etrog and resting on the holiday, it doesn't even mention the Sukkah. Lulav and Etrog and resting on the holiday, which both of them are called in the Torah Rishon, they're called first, on the first day. The first day you should rest, and the first day you should take Lulav and Etrog. Because of this, we will merit to the third temple and the name of the Mashiach. Okay, now why? So the Rebbe explains, taking the Lulav and Etrog will get us the name of the Mashiach. How so? So the Rebbe explains like this. When the Jews sit in a sukkah, it brings a blessing of godliness which is above the world. It's above the world. It just sort of cleans the world from above in a general way. Lulav and Etrog, that cleans the world in an individual way. It brings unity to all of the details while each detail retains its individuality. So that's what it says. Nevertheless, there is an advantage to the unity, which is in the details of the four types of Dalet, meaning the Lulav and Etrog, more than the unity. There's my pointer over here. Get my pointer. More than the unity of the details of the four meaning. When it's just oh, there we go. Excuse me 1 second. Why does this not work? Here we go. Okay, I guess it doesn't. Okay, I'll just have to do with what we got. There's something special about Lulav and Etrog, which is incomparable to anything else. Even more than the Sukkah. Why? Varum, because they're shorish from Isachtus, the idea of unifying details, and that all of the details themselves should be unified. This comes from the true unity of God. Versus Hecha, which is higher than any sort of unity and division in the world. Let me explain. What do most people think God is? Most people think that God is just like, so, he created the world and that's it. After that, we have no comprehension of what it is. He created the world. That was tough enough. That was hard enough. And now he's just, removed totally. And if you want to access God, you have to do it through a statue, a person, a spirit, whatever it is, an idea. God is basically inaccessible unless you have some sort of a means to go through it. Says Judaism. Judaism comes and says that that's not so. God is infinitely close. God is infinitely close. And that's what Mashiach will come to show. God appeared to be far away. That was basically a lie. It wasn't really true. But that was a lie that God made. the God appears to be far away. When we do the commandments, so we draw the oneness of God. We reveal the God and the oneness of God into the world. Into the world. Says when we do the Sukkah, the unity which is drawn down, which we evoke by means of doing the commandment of Sukkah, this unity comes from a place where there's a difference between many and few, between one and division, a difference between one and division. And therefore that reveals the oneness of God that negates all divisions. But the essence of God, and from the essence God created the world. So God is closer than we can think. God loves the details. The details, God is found in the details. How does they, in the world they say the devil is in the details? The divine is in the details. God is in the details. Every detail shows on the greatness of the essence of God. Higher than the oneness, so to speak, of God. That is an expression of God's oneness, all the details. That's true oneness of God. The unity of the Sukkah, this comes from a place where there's a big difference. It comes from a place where multitude, many details is an inyan. Hafchi is the opposite from unity. And therefore, that's what the Sukkah is. Therefore, the unity of the Sukkah is in a way that has to unite, has to delete all details. Everything becomes one. That's Sukkah. But the unity, which comes from the essence of God, which that's the essence, simple essence of God. There is no difference between many and one. Riboy and multitude is no contradiction to oneness. Exactly the opposite. Multitude comes because of God's simple oneness. How can this be? For instance, there is also regarding to the idea of the unity physical of the commandments, which is in the Sukkah in the four types. As in the meaning, in these four types, in Lulov and Etrog, is a better quality, a higher quality of unity than Sukkah. Why? Because in Sukkah, everything is unified, but you didn't do anything with it. You just went into the Sukkah. The unity, the physical of the commandments of Sukkah, the Baltas is velt vert oifketan, because it's by doing the commandment, and not because that's the nature of the Sukkah unity. This brings the true, bring as noch nit, not true oneness of God. In other words, oneness of God does not, the world doesn't interfere with the oneness of God. The world doesn't interfere with the oneness of God. Exactly the opposite. The fact that God is creating the world is not coming from some low aspect of God. That God creates so many atoms and so many molecules and so many planets and so many plants and animals and things like that. That's not a lower aspect of God that does that. And we're looking for something higher. We want to go to heaven where there's no differences. No. Heaven is very nice. There's no differences. There's minor differences in heaven. But in this world, heaven, there's not all these blades of grass and all these different types of rocks and things like that. At least not in relation to us in heaven. The physical earth, world, there's all these differences. So we can say, that's not God. Says the Rebbe exactly the opposite. The world detracts from the oneness of God as it's expressed by Sukkah. But the oneness of God, how it's expressed by the four meaning, Lulav and Etrog, was is Nikr, which is you can see in the physical nature of the things themselves. The Hadas, the Lulav, the Etrog, each one already expressed a certain type of unity and surrender to God before you even used it. When you put them together, how much more so? So we can see that now we can see that the physical things, the world, is a vessel for godliness. Durch them davka, by means of this, will bring out the true unity of God. But because this idea of the unity of God is only external, it's only which these are surrendered to God, at least before you use them for a commandment, is was dus is nidriker from achdus. This is lower from the unity which is above any differences. So in order to reveal the lulav and esrog unity, as thus was the pratim, that all the details that they partake in one unity was drikt ois. This is the unity, the true unity of the darf the is achdus a pratim kumen behemshech to the achdus shalamayla mischalkos. So what's the Rebbe saying? A lot of words. So lulav, etrog, hadas, these four different types already expressed unity before you even started using them. Before you started using them, you could already see that they had the tendency to be surrendered to God. When you put them together, that expressed that tendency even more. And it's a tendency that can only be expressed through details. If so, lulav and etrog, that expresses more what Mashiach is going to do than the Succa does. The Succa is going to show, God is everywhere and he embraces all mankind and that all is just a big creation of God and God loves everything. But lulav and etrog shows that everything is different. And in that difference, that expresses the true uniqueness and miraculousness of God, that he creates everything different and everything is precious. And nevertheless, that can all unify. That's what Mashiach will accomplish, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. We'll go over this paragraph again. Go over this paragraph again. Good. Now,